Welcome to the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. The show covering all things health, wellness, culture, kitchen, cooking, and more. The show for all of us who aren't old, we're better. Each week, we'll interview superstars, experts, and ordinary people doing extraordinary things, all related to this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Now here's your host, the award-winning Paul Vogelzang.
Welcome to another episode of our Good Housekeeping, Good, Better, Best series here on the Not Old Better Show. Today, we're pulling back the covers, quite literally, to talk about all things bedding, from crisp summer sheets to the kind of comforters that make you want to hit snooze just one more time. We're going to be talking about much more. Joining us today is Emma Seymour, Associate Director of the Good Housekeeping Institute's Textiles, Paper, and Apparel Lab, the woman who's tested more pillows, blankets, and sheets than most of us will own in a lifetime. Emma Seymour's team has spent the last 5 months evaluating hundreds of products, checking everything from fabric strength to how well they survive the washing machine, and even getting real-world feedback from over 600 testers, including those of us who run hot, sleep cold, or share a bed with someone who somehow steals all the covers. But we're not stopping at the bedroom. Emma Seymour is also here to talk about something that's making a big impact on lives: adaptive clothing. That's right. These are smart, stylish designs that make dressing easier for older adults and people with disabilities without sacrificing personality or fashion sense. Think magnetic closures instead of fiddly buttons, shoes you can step right into, and clothing that works with medical equipment while still looking great. You guys know this about me. I love my clothes. I love great fabrics. I really try hard to look as good as possible. Adaptive clothing fits all of these specifics. You're going to love this interview. So whether you're after the coolest sheets for summer or curious about how fashion is becoming more inclusive, you're in the right place. Let's get comfy and get right into it. Here is our guest today from Good Housekeeping Institute's Textiles, Paper, and Apparel Lab, Emma Seymour. Emma Seymour, Good Housekeeping Institute. Welcome to the programming.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to
Yeah.
be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. I'm excited to talk to you. This is a cool subject. We're going to talk about your work. You're the Associate Director of Textiles at the Textiles Lab, and that includes paper and apparel. I'm not like a fashion guy, but I love nice fabrics. And I mentioned to you kind of in our exchange that I do a little bit of sewing. And so
Mhm.
this is all really kind of interest to me. So you'll have to bear with my kind of enthusiasm here, because
I
I'm
love the
looking for.
enthusiasm.
Good. Well, that's great. Well, let's just jump right in, because I think it's just a fascinating subject, the work that you do and the work of the labs and all of this work that is around um, sleep and bedding, because I think that's always on our minds, because it's hard to get a good night's sleep these days, and it's certainly hard to beat it. And so let's talk a little bit about bedding and beds and all of that stuff. I want you to just be honest with us and tell us, you know, have you ever tested anything, whether it was a $10 item or a $10,000 item, a blanket perhaps, that you just really felt like, I got to have that?
It's so funny because I test so much in lab, and not
Yeah.
every single one of those products is gonna go to my own home. But every once in a while, a product will come across my desk. I'll be testing it in the lab. I'll be reading consumer feedback. And I'm just surprised. I'm like, wow, I have to try that myself. I absolutely have to see if I actually like that. One example was we tested this pillow in the lab that was a memory foam pillow, and it was shaped like a perfect rectangle. It had perfect 90-degree angles on the corners, and it looked so odd in the lab, and I really didn't think much of it. It did well in lab testing, but I was like, that's just so bizarre looking, and testers just loved it, and they were so obsessed with it, and I had to try it. I was like, I need to know about this rectangle pillow if I'll like sleep on it. I loved sleeping on it. I really did, and so it is fun to sometimes test up in the lab and see how it performs in terms of durability and different attributes to it, and then also try it at home and see if I actually find, like you said, if I'm actually getting a better night's sleep, if I actually find it comfortable, and give my personal feedback in addition to my expert feedback as well.
Right, right. Well, that's great. Well, thank you. Did it make a difference, did you find? Because I think sometimes we overlook the power of some of these changes that technology brings about some cool new things.
Absolutely, like, I did find with that pillow, like,
Uh-huh.
I did, I'm a true side sleeper. It's a pillow designed for side sleepers, it's from Pillow Cube, and I did notice an improvement, like, I did really like sleeping on it, I found it really supportive because I think when you outfit your bed to it's not just the products that are trendy or the products that are popular, it's really the products that are working and giving you the solutions you want for your sleep that are really gonna make a difference, and there have been a ton of innovations in the market, and some of these new innovations and technologies are really excellent and top performing, but what's good for one person might not be good for you. And it's really about considering like your specific sleep needs when you're
Mhm.
purchasing. And that's why with our testing, like we really try to match testers to products that fit the type of person that would buy it. So if you, for instance, love fluffy pillows, we would never send you a memory foam pillow because you're automatically not going to like it. So it's really about finding the products that are going to be the best suited for each different sleeper.
That's really a good point. It's a good jumping off point too, because I tend to be somebody who sleeps a little hot, and during the summer months, and you and I are talking in August, the dog days of here of summer, and it's a cool day here where I live, but I know it's going to get hotter soon, and it's hard for me to sleep when it's hot. I like it a little cooler, and the technology is such now that we're seeing on the market these cooling sheets. Maybe tell us a little bit about that, especially go beyond kind of the marketing hype, because that's a real subject and it's a real product.
It absolutely is a big concern for a lot of people. Um, no one ever wants to feel sweaty and too hot at night. It's super uncomfortable. And so
Right.
there are a lot of consumers that are looking for these solutions. But in turn, that also means sometimes there's a lot of marketing out there and brands that are overpromising when it comes to performance. No bedding is going to get rid of your night sweats 100%. These things are going to be solutions, but end of the day, like they're not necessarily going to be miracle workers. They can't do everything. But when you're looking for cooling technology and cooling bedding, I think first and foremost, you have to consider what type of bedding you like to sleep on. 100% cotton, for example, is the most popular sheet material. Most people love sleeping on 100% cotton sheets. But cotton is known to suck in moisture. It is not moisture wicking. And so if you're a hot sleeper, that might feel pretty sweaty. But yet there are cotton sheets like a percale weave that is an airier weave. It's more breathable, so you can still get that cotton feel while also getting something that's a more breathable option compared to a sateen, which will be a little slicker and a little less comfortable for a hot sleeper. But then on the flip side, if you're comfortable with something that is not 100% cotton embedding, there are a lot of really cool technologies that are effective. They're not marketing hype. They really do work and perform. And we're seeing that with Outlast technology and 37.5. And these are technologies that are infused into the fiber themselves. And these are in sheets and comforters and duvet covers, and they help absorb and release heat throughout the night. And they're typically infused into a moisture wicking fabric, like a tencel, which will also help if you're sweating. It'll wick away moisture and it'll also absorb your body heat and release it. So you're not really to help prevent that overheating sensation that's common at night. And those materials tend to have a slicker feel, they tend to be smoother, they tend to be very soft, which some people really like, but also then other shoppers really like that crisp cotton feel, and that type of material isn't gonna provide that, and so it's really thinking about what comfort level you want, because end of the day, you have to be comfortable, and we always say that, like, number 1, you have to think of your comfort, and no technology is gonna be effective if you don't find it comfortable to start.
I heard you use a term just now, tensile. And so when I think of tensile, I think in terms of strength, but that's probably not how you're using it, perhaps. But and so I'm probably wrong. But tell us, do you mean is that the same as thread count?
What I was referring to is actually a type of, fiber. So
Okay.
it's a specific brand name actually, Tencel, Lyocell, but
Okay.
it is a category of regenerated cellulose fibers. It's spelled a little differently, but
Got
regenerated
it.
cellulose fibers, they use like a like a cellulose to start, but then it's dissolved in a solvent. They use treated fiber, and those materials tend to be very silky, very soft to the touch. They're popular in a lot of cooling bedding. They're very popular. They're also popular in athletic wear and like travel products. They don't wrinkle as much, so you'll see those materials now. Now you might notice it when you're shopping. You might
Yeah,
see
I definitely will.
Tencel Lyocell up there. But yeah, it
That's
is a really
good.
popular cooling bedding material.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for that. Um, so you mentioned memory foam pillows, and I want to ask about those too because there's a lot of marketing hype around memory foam. People swear by them. Some swear at them, perhaps. But what do you think about memory foam pillows in terms of our ability to, understand what's right for us in terms of our sleeping needs?
Absolutely. So memory foam is a great option for pillows, for toppers, for mattresses. It is really popular for a reason. There's just a couple things definitely keep in mind and see if memory foam is the right fit for you. Memory foam's really supportive. So it has that sink in sensation. So when you lean on it, your head just sinks in slowly, which I don't think, which I personally like. I like that sensation, but I know for some people, that's the thing that they really can't get behind with memory foam. They don't love that sinking in sensation. Memory foam can be firm, it can be plusher, it can be soft. So it's also looking at the different styles available. For pillows, memory foam is typically sold as either a solid pillow, a solid foam, or shredded. So shredded's a great option because that's small pieces of memory foam instead of just one big chunk. And that will be a little plusher. I like that because a lot of times those pillows are adjustable. So you can actually add and remove the fill
Mm.
to customize the height. So that's a great option. And it's still offering that support. So it's a little bit more plush. But for people who don't want a super supportive pillow, they want something thinner, maybe super soft, especially if you're like a stomach sleeper, then memory foam might not be a great fit for you because you might prefer something that is just super fluffy, like down. And memory foam has a completely different feel. Memory foam also tends to trap heat, which can be feeling hot. And so if like you're talking about hot sleepers,
Mhm.
that sometimes cannot be a great fit. But there are a lot of memory foam pillows out there that pair the memory foam with a cooling technology and with maybe a moisture wicking cover, or they perforate it, they put holes throughout the memory foam to make it more breathable. So there are these innovations out there to make memory foam pillows more approachable to hot sleepers, but just as a general rule, the material does tend to trap heat. So that might be a reason why someone's wanting to hurl their memory foam pillow out the window.
I'm a memory foam pillow sleeper, and I like it, not from a medical perspective at all, but I like it because it does support my neck and back a little bit more. And I seem to have found one that isn't hot at all, and so it really works for me. I notice the difference.
I do too. I really like sleeping on it. And I think sometimes people don't realize that there are these different types of foam and there are different styles and there are different things to look for. And so I find sometimes I'll say to someone like, "You ever heard of shredded memory foam?" And they've never heard of it and they've only seen solid and they hated that, but maybe a shredded version is really great for them. So it definitely depends. There's a lot of different things on the market. There's also hybrid pillows where it's shredded memory foam mixed with polyester with a down alternative fiber. And those can be great too because you get a bit of a mix. But I agree. I don't think it's not necessarily for everyone, but I do
Mhm.
think it's something that is worth considering when you're shopping for a new pillow for sure.
Another thing that I'm hearing an awful lot about these days are weighted blankets.
Mhm.
Certainly, they're having a moment
Mhm.
now, and I've heard of them for use by older adults, even pets. I've heard them being used for. Are they what they claim to be? Do you find them to be really something of value and helpful, or is it just something to throw on the bed and then throw off the bed?
People really do find value in them.
Yeah.
The weighted blankets, they offer a bit of pressure to the body, which can help encourage relaxation. I've tested a few of them, and you do put that weighted blanket on, and I do find that my body does relax, and it can encourage sleep. They can, for some people, feel a little claustrophobic. I think it just depends on the person. I personally find them a little claustrophobic. I don't love to use one regularly, but we have I know many testers who've tried them who sleep with one every single night. With weighted blankets, I think there's a couple things to be mindful of. They are sold in different weights, and the general guidance is you want to stick with around 10% of your body weight for a weighted blanket.
Hmm.
And I recommend if you're new to it, even go a little less because any type of weight on the body is just like a new sensation you might not be used to. And so I feel like it's sometimes better to start with a lower weight if you're want to try it out for the first time. And also there's some safety concerns with weighted blankets. They can be risky for use with like if you have pets or children in the house. So we recommend like avoiding weighted blankets with pets or children just because it can be a suffocation risk. And if you're interested in using one, I would confirm with a pediatrician or veterinarian if it's like a good fit and make sure you're using it under their guidance just because of the weight, they can pose a hazard too.
I think one of the things that I love about your work and the labs is that it's not always the most expensive item that wins the day. And so I wonder if you just comment about, kind of the expense, kind of graph here and just tell us, is expensive bedding really worth it? I mean, I know it very much depends on our sleeping style and, what we find to work for us, but it seems like you can get great quality without having to break the bank.
You definitely can with bedding get great quality without spending a ton.
Mm.
We've tested $2,000 bedding that
Mhm.
was less durable than a $50 sheet set. We have really seen affordable buys be really well performing in the lab, showing minimal pills, being really strong, resistant to shrinkage after laundering. And so we do set performance at a range of price points. There are some materials and types of bedding that I do think are sometimes worth the splurge and tend to be pricier. For example, if you want a really fluffy down comforter, that tends to be a luxury item, and
Mhm.
just tends to be more expensive if you wanna get quality down. And if you're a big fan of linen bedding, linen sheets do tend to be pricier, and we do see a lot of times with pricier styles, higher performance with linen. But there are great cotton sheet sets that are around $50. One of my favorite sheet sets that I sleep on almost every night is around $50, and it's lasted longer than some of the sheets that I've tested that cost over $500. And so I definitely do think there's a range there in terms of performance, and that's a big thing that our lab does. That's kind of the whole point. We're price blind when we test. We do a range, and so sometimes we do see those surprise hits where we can find something really affordable that is really top performing.
Coming up after this, we will be switching gears, but keeping the same focus on quality, comfort, and living well. We've talked about the best sheets, pillows, and bedding for every kind of sleeper now. Emma Seymour is going to be taking us into the world of adaptive clothing where fashion meets function and style meets accessibility, from clever design details to brands making truly inclusive options. You'll hear how clothing can be more than just what we wear. It can actually help us live better. Emma Seymour is back with us momentarily. Our guest today on the Good, Better, Best Good Housekeeping interview series is Emma Seymour, who is the Associate Director of Textiles, Paper, and Apparel in the Good Housekeeping Institute Labs. It's such a pleasure to talk to you. This is a subject that I really enjoy. I love textiles and I'm kind of a paper. I take a morning newspaper. I like the feel of paper. I still write letters. I'm old. I know that, but I want to switch gears and talk to you for just a few moments more about another area of your expertise, and that has to do with adaptive clothing. I found this in my research of you for our conversation today, that you work a fair bit on the subject of adaptive clothing. Some in our audience might not know what it is. It's fascinating, and I think I'd like to have you maybe start by explaining it just a little bit. And why is it so important for older adults, people like me in kind of my age range, people with disabilities perhaps, to consider some form of adaptive clothing? Because there are so many changes that are coming about so quickly right now.
Absolutely. I think adaptive clothing is one of the most exciting areas of growth in the fashion industry and in apparel in general. Adaptive clothing refers to any clothing that is designed to make it easier to get dressed, take off, and wear for a person with disabilities and really all people. I think a lot of times adaptive clothing can be just better clothing and be
Mm.
better designed for a lot of different people to use it. And it's all designed for different purposes. So there might be adaptive clothing designed for someone who has limited grip strength and maybe struggles with buttons. And so there might be an adaptive garment that's focused on that versus a pair of jeans that's designed for a wheelchair user that's maybe cut differently to be more comfortable for
Mm.
someone sitting down. And
Interesting.
so there's a lot of range when it comes to adaptive clothing. And so I think it's a really exciting area because almost any brand providing almost any product can be considering these adaptive qualities and making a product that is really going to work for all types of consumers buying it, which is also a really untapped market for these brands and that
Yeah.
they can even, be increasing their revenue and their success by, really encouraging all people and finding these comfort solutions. But there's a ton of range out there when it comes to adaptive
Mm.
clothing.
Mm.
It's not a one size fits all solution. And I also am excited to be seeing more fashion brands, more stylish, trendy options available. And I do think it's a huge area of growth. And I keep seeing more and more brands jumping on board.
Well, tell us a little bit about some of those brands because you have a really nice way of putting this. Again, in my research of you for our conversation today, you talk about the adaptive clothing lines as being functional and fashionable. And I think that's a really interesting point to make about it. So tell us about some of the brands that you have found that offer both, where style and accessibility really, kind of merge and come together because I think that's what we're after. I think, if we are wheelchair bound, the idea of sitting, as you suggest, could be a real issue. And so something that looks nice, it kind of fits our body and lays nicely against ourselves is important. But we want it to be comfortable as we're sitting for long, long periods.
Absolutely. I think everyone deserves to look good and feel good, and clothes can be a really great way of expressing yourself, your personality. I personally love fashion, and so I really hope that all people can find clothes that not only make them feel good in terms of the style, but also in terms of the comfort and wearability factors as well. Some brands I think are really exciting in the adaptive fashion space is Billy Footwear. They are a sneaker company that has a zipper around the side and the front, and it makes it easier to put on shoes for it was designed by a wheelchair user, but a lot of other people find them much more comfortable to wear. I've tested them personally. They are just a great sneaker. They're available in a ton of great colors and patterns. They're really fun, suitable for like all ages. And I think that's another example of something that is an adaptive piece, but can also be worn by a lot of other people too. Another other brands that do really well, Tommy Hilfiger has had an adaptive line for many years, and they do a great job. And it's styles that you know and love that you can get with adaptive functions as well. JanSport recently launched an adaptive backpack, which is awesome. They're such a
Mm.
big name in the backpack industry, and for them to have an adaptive piece that fits into their aesthetic and their collection, I think is awesome. And it's a great backpack. We've tested all these products, and people love them. Um, I'm trying to think what else. Oh, and some other brands, like some fashion brands recently, like Anthropologie, American Eagle, have launched adaptive lines. And those have been, in the last few years. And that's really exciting to see. Like I know Slick Chicks, they do adaptive underwear for women and they're still like attractive. And it's really great opportunity for these brands to combine, like we were talking about, fashion, function, and introducing a new market into their shoppers as well.
Yeah, I think that's fascinating because those are big names. And you think about Anthropology, you think about Tommy Hilfiger, and you think about some of those other JanSport. Those are names that I wouldn't necessarily associate with kind of quote unquote medical clothing. And that's a term that I use that probably is not accurate at all, probably one that the industry would prefer that they not even be associated with. But how is the industry kind of changing? Give us some examples because it's not just about snaps on your placket of your shirts. It goes much further.
Absolutely. And I think it's considering all different types of needs. And so someone, who maybe wants a magnetic closure on a shirt isn't going to be the
Uh-huh.
same person who wants maybe a more like an adaptive shoe, or someone who wants like an adaptive, even like makeup products or something with a better grip. Like there's all sorts of products out there that are going to be serving different types of people. And so I think we talked about like the shoes that are easier to get on. So there's
Yeah.
like Billy footwear with the zipper. Kizik offers a step-in shoe that's great for
Mm,
people with like limited foot strength.
mm,
We see pants that are cut differently. We see clothes that have maybe no tags, very soft fabrics for people with sensory concerns. We see things that I know Target has a great line of adaptive children's products that are
mm.
great for medical equipment. Um, Anna Ono does adaptive bras that are great for people who've had mastectomies, and they're very attractive too. Like they're a beautiful product. And so it's like seeing these functions that are really aimed at serving a need and helping people while also being attractive and um, something people actually wanna wear and they feel excited about wearing. It's not this medical, drab, like, unattractive garment. It's something that you're gonna feel really confident putting on in the morning, and I think that's, like, a really exciting space for adaptive fashion, because there's just so much room to grow and so many brands can, do that and do it better, and I think we're gonna be seeing even more innovations, and I think that's a space where there will be just more and more growth for sure.
Wonderful stuff. Emma Seymour is our guest today. Emma is the Associate Director of Textiles, Paper, and the Apparel Lab at Good Housekeeping Institute. It really is fun to talk to you. I'm just fascinated by all of this. And for our audience that are going to watch our videos, we'll put visible links up. We will put some photos of some of the work that Emma does, Emma and her team that they do, as well as some of these products that Emma is mentioning. You'll find out more references in our show notes. Let's talk for a second, though, Emma, about caregivers, because many in our audience serve as caregivers for others, and they might be responsible for making some of these purchases. What's one guiding principle that you would give to that population of caregivers about this idea of adaptive fashion and really understanding it for those that they're giving care to?
I think first and foremost is considering maybe something that you or the person who's wearing the clothes is struggling with. What is something about the clothes they're wearing that isn't serving, is difficult, is challenging, is frustrating, is uncomfortable? And it's really starting there and seeing if we can find solutions to that. Um, Maybe it's like we're talking about buttons, maybe it's zippers, maybe it's something that is just becoming a pain concern and becoming an issue. And thinking about looking for adaptive solutions there. Some adaptive fashion uses magnets. It's a really common
Mhm.
like alternative to a button, but magnets can interfere with pacemakers, and so it's important to talk to a doctor around that as well before you start adding things to your shopping cart. Is considering if the person wearing it does a pacemaker because it can interfere, and magnets can also be a choking hazard with small children. So just being cautious about having like small magnets around the house before purchasing. But I think first and foremost, you really want to start with ways to just improve every day. And I think adaptive fashion can provide some of those solutions. And I think, first and foremost, seeing if you can find something that just makes everything easier. Um, I think it's just like a good place to start. And also, is it something the person's going to like wearing? Is it attractive?
Mhm.
Is it going to be something that is easy to take care of? I always recommend looking at care instructions. Is it easy to launder? Is it machine washable, dryer safe? I think are all like helpful things to look at when shopping too, just because you still want to make sure the garment's easy to maintain long term.
We've talked a little bit about fashion and adaptive clothing, and I know that you really pay close attention to the world of fashion in addition to textiles. One of the stories that I found associated with you that I just thought was so inspiring is the story about the runway of dreams, a fashion-oriented story that is so inspiring to me. And I maybe tell us a little bit about that, the runway of dreams. But in particular, do you think that we're going to get to a point where adaptive clothing isn't its own kind of category all by itself? It's just a normal part of the clothing line that all clothes have a real almost a kind of a focus on functionality, but still look really good too. Those clothes from Tommy Hilfiger and et cetera.
I think it's definitely possible. Runway of Dreams is an organization that is advocating for more adaptive fashion. They throw a runway show. They have all sorts of different people with disabilities walking the runway, highlighting adaptive fashion brands that are really doing an amazing job. And it also showcases all the fashion, like the style. people's personalities. It's a really great event. I have attended it in the past, and it's
Yeah.
awesome. And I do think that's definitely possible. I think in today's world, maybe in like since 2020, since the COVID pandemic, I do think people are focused more on comfort than ever before. I think we're seeing that with brands focused on really soft, really comfortable textiles, really easy living. And I think a lot of people want that, even outside of people shopping for adaptive clothing specifically. And I think with that focus on comfort, I definitely think some of these adaptive technologies and features we might be seeing woven into just more common clothes. And I think we want to be, accepting to all and be accessible to all. And I think more brands that prioritize the adaptive fashion and weave that in are going to be able to um, have great options for people with disabilities, but also maybe even just have better options for everybody else shopping on their site too. And so I definitely think it's a big area of growth. And it really excites me when I see a brand launch an adaptive piece. I'm like, that's an awesome idea. I'm glad they're going to do it. And I'm going to try it out and make sure that it really does perform too.
Well, thanks for taking us there, because I was captivated by that story about adaptive clothing and all that's being done with the Runway of Dreams. I think that's really very inspiring. Well, I so appreciate your time, Emma Seymour. I just have a couple of quick final questions. Are you game for just a couple of rapid fire kind of fashion / bedding / off the top of Paul's brain kind of questions
Yes.
that I can throw?
Yes,
Okay.
let's do it.
All right, good. So if you could take a nap anywhere in the world, where's the best bedding that would help you do that? Where would you find that?
I mean, a really nice 5-star hotel obviously is famous for their bedding, but I just love sleeping anywhere where there's like a nice breeze coming in, cool air. I think it's so important to just like optimize your whole bedding environment for sure. And also, I personally have great bedding. I love sleeping in my bed more than anywhere else.
Perfect. That's as it should be, I think. Absolutely. Is there a bedding trend that you just secretly would wish could just go away? You don't want it anymore.
Every time I see bamboo mislabeling in bedding, I get so frustrated. It's a huge issue. It violates FTC guidelines for labeling. But we see it a lot of bedding brands saying that they're offering bamboo sheets or bamboo comforters. And this is just incorrect. It is rayon. It is a regenerated cellulose fiber, but I think that they say bamboo because that sounds maybe more, environmentally friendly or anything, but it couldn't be further from the truth. It's not a good process for the environment. Very taxing. And so whenever I see bamboo mislabeling, I just shudder a little bit. I don't want to see it.
Good. Okay, last one. I promise. So let's talk about bedtime snacks, and that may be a taboo, but maybe tell us warm milk, herbal tea, or let's not talk about snacks in our wonderful bedding. How does that resonate with you?
I'm team no snacks in the bed, only water. Not worth the risk of spilling a coffee or a tea on the bed.
Good. Emma Seymour, what a pleasure it's been to talk with you. Of course, you're the Associate Director of Good Housekeeping Institute's Textiles, Paper, and Apparel Lab. I hope you come back because it's so fun to learn about these subjects, whether it's adaptive clothing or all of the new developments in bedding. This has been a joy, and I really appreciate all that you're doing. Congratulations on this wonderful work. It sounds like a lot of fun, and we hope you come back.
Thank you for having me. This was so much fun, and it is a lot of fun. I love what I do, and I'm glad to hear you're passionate about it too.
I do. I love it. I hope that comes across genuinely, not just a big chuckle. Good. Thanks, Emma.
I want to see your sewing projects.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna share some sewing projects with you.
Please do. All right. Have a good one.
You too. That's it for today's Good Housekeeping, Good, Better, Best conversation here on the Not Old, Better Show. A big thanks to Emma Seymour, who is the Associate Director of the Good Housekeeping Institute's Textiles, Paper, and Apparel Lab, a woman who's tested more pillows, blankets, and sheets than most of us will own in a lifetime. It's been a pleasure talking with Emma today. We really appreciate her sharing her expertise on everything from cool summer bedding to the new wave of adaptable clothing that's bringing both comfort and style to so many lives. If you've enjoyed this episode of Good, Better, Best, you can find more as well as much more from the Not Old Better Show, along with all of our previous shows at notold-better.com. You can also follow us on Twitter at notoldbetter and on Instagram at notoldbetter for updates, behind-the-scenes stories, and much, much more. This has been a production of NOBS Studios. I'm Paul Vogelzang. I'd love for you to join me again, but in the meantime, please be well, be safe. Let's talk about better. The Not Old Better Show, Good Housekeeping, Good, Better, Best conversation each month. It's all about living your best life at every stage. Please join us again next month. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you soon.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast. Good Housekeeping is more than just a magazine. It's a beacon of reliability, offering tested and trusted advice on everything from health and wellness to home improvement and recipes. With their iconic Good Housekeeping seal, you can trust the products and tips they recommend, knowing they've been thoroughly vetted for quality and effectiveness. To find out more about all of today's stories or to view our extensive back catalog of previous shows, simply visit notold-better.com. Join us again next time as we deep dive into some of the most fascinating real-life stories from across the world, all focused on this wonderful experience of getting better, not just older. Let's talk better. The Not Old Better Show Good Housekeeping interview series on radio and podcast.